Tonight, we're doing something a little different. We're not just looking at a war, we're looking at the words of war. We're going to break down how language isn't just something that describes a conflict, it's an active participant. It can be a weapon, a shield, and a powerful tool of persuasion.
You know, it often starts with a simple sentence, just like this one. A news report that immediately drops you right into the heart of a crisis. The words themselves just paint a picture, don't they? You can almost feel the chaos just from hearing them.
So let's really unpack this. Because in a conflict, words are so much more than just words. They can be like bullets. They can build realities, they can frame narratives, and they can even be used to justify violence. We're going to explore exactly how this happens, one word at a time.
So here's the plan. We're going to deconstruct the language of this conflict by looking at it in 3 distinct layers. First, the powerful rhetoric used by leaders, then the cold, technical jargon of the military, and finally, the very human words used by journalists on the ground.
All right, first up, the language of command. Our source material really zooms in on President Trump's use of simple, direct, and incredibly powerful rhetoric. It's a style that's clearly designed to project this sense of unquestionable authority.
Just look at how these specific words function. Surrender isn't an invitation to negotiate, it's a command. It creates a simple win-lose situation. Wiped out implies total, absolute destruction, not just a military setback. And calling someone a lightweight, that's a classic verbal power move meant to dismiss and dominate an opponent. This is how you frame a conflict completely on your own terms.
And this, right here, is the core of the strategy. You create a binary choice, a black and white world. There is absolutely no room for nuance, no middle ground. It's either total immunity or absolutely guaranteed death. The choice is incredibly stark, and the power dynamic it creates is just undeniable.
So from the language of power, let's shift gears and move to the jargon of war. You know, these are the words of the battlefield, the terms we hear on the news all the time. But what are we really hearing when these words are used?
We've already seen that phrase wiped out, but now it's paired with this term, aerial bombardment. It sounds so precise, so official, almost clean. But what does it actually describe?
Yeah, this isn't a surgical strike. The source defines it as continuous and intensive bombing. And right here, we see a key function of military language. It uses these clinical-sounding terms to sanitize a pretty brutal reality. All of a sudden, a sterile military term becomes a visceral image of widespread destruction.
Next up, a term that carries some serious weight, cluster bomb warhead. This isn't just military jargon, it's a term that is absolutely loaded with controversy. Our source notes that these are actually banned by international convention. So why is that? Well, it's because they scatter these smaller submunitions that very often fail to detonate right away. They basically turn former battlefields into active minefields for civilians, years after the fighting has stopped. The language creates distance, but once you know the definition, the term cluster bomb is no longer just a word, it's a chilling reality. Okay, so we've gone from the calculated language of power and military hardware, and now we turn to the human cost. Let's look at the words used to describe the evacuation of Beirut. 30. Not casualties, not miles. 30 minutes. According to reports, that is how long some families had to leave everything they've ever known behind. Just 30 minutes to save their own lives.
How do you even capture that kind of reality in words? Well, journalists use very specific vocabulary. You hear phrases like mass exodus, chaotic scenes, unprecedented evacuation order. And the warning itself is just so blunt. Leave immediately if they wanted to save their lives. These aren't just descriptions. They're cries of pure urgency and desperation. And here's the contrast. On one side, you have the language of absolute control. Total demolition. It's a distant, strategic pronouncement, focused entirely on an objective, the enemy.
And then you have the other side, the language of total vulnerability. This quote from an Iranian civilian just captures the raw reality of it all. There are no strategic objectives here, just the simple, terrifying truth. In the war, there is no safety for nobody.
So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean? Well, it means that when we consume the news, we're not just getting facts, we're getting a story, and that story is being crafted with very, very specific language.
We've seen the 3 layers in action, right? You've got the absolute rhetoric of power.
the sterile jargon of war, and the urgent language of a human crisis. Each one of them tells a piece of the story, but from a completely unique perspective.
And this is why it all matters so much. Being truly informed isn't just about knowing the facts, it's about knowing how those facts are being framed for you. Understanding these linguistic tools, that is the key to seeing the whole picture.
So the next time you're watching the news, just listen a little closer. Don't just hear the report. Try to decode the language. You've now seen how words can define a battlefield, how they can project power, and how they can reveal incredible suffering. The question is, now that you know the code, what will you hear?
喜欢这种学习方式，欢迎订阅我的频道，让我们一起用下一个10分钟，把商业英文变简单。